have to sort this out on my own. Without the council, and without you. Stay here any longer. Not now. I have to sort this out on my own. Without the council, and without you. Stay here any longer. Not now. I have to sort this out on my own. Without the council, and without you. Stay here any longer. Not now. Stay here any longer. Not now. have to sort this out on my own. Without the council. And without you. This isn't about you. I can't stay here any longer. Not now.
Alrighty, hello. Welcome to another episode of Dyad in the Force, and it's awesome. I know we've been talking a lot about the High Republic here, as well we should, because it's amazing. With Phase One largely wrapping up, we'll talk about all of it. We're gonna jump into Book of Boba Fett. We got some recent casting news on Ahsoka, and also we'll be hanging out with y'all in the chat. This is Diet and the Force. Well,
Episode 61. Things are going. I have a couple of things on the back burner that's simmering to a rolling boil. We'll have more news in a couple of weeks on that. But we're going to be talking about the entirety of Phase 1, obviously in abstracts. We're not trying to spoil everything for everyone. But we are joined by one half of Open Circle Fleet, the writer of... Well, I'll just let her take care of that. We'll start with Camilla. Introduce yourself and let us know where we can find your stuff.
Sounds good. Well, yes. Hello, everyone. I'm Camilla. Primarily, you can find me on TikTok at boricuawookiee. Like Pep said, I'm one half of the Open Circle Fleet. My other half is Beth at mara.j.skywalker. Make sure you follow her because she's amazing and perfect. And we go live before and after Book of Boba Fett on Tuesday/Wednesday to talk about it for some Boba Fett support and then also some other good chaos. You can find us on TikTok at the Open Circle Fleet. And then lastly, yes, I have a Star Wars narrative podcast. It's called Beings of the Galaxy. And each episode tells a story of a different being in a galaxy and how they are the heroes of their own stories, the people in the background. You can find that, you can listen to season 1 streaming in its entirety wherever you listen to podcasts, also on Instagram at Beings of the Galaxy Pod, and you will hear some familiar voices, some of your TikTok faves in that, including Choco and Pep. So check that out.
Awesome. And we do have a first time guest, not necessarily a stranger to us, but first time on Diet in the Force. Would you like to introduce yourself, Xanthi? Let everyone know what you do and where they can find you.
Will do. I'm Xanthi, or Chrysanthi Tan, not to be confused with Chrysantin. And I have a podcast called Star Wars Music Minute, and we go through the Star Wars films 5 minutes at a time in chronological order, talking about the music and sound design. And everyone here has been a guest, which is amazing. So check that out if you really want to get into the music of Star Wars. I see Star Wars Lawyer in chat too. He's been a guest.
It is a great podcast. I covered, I think, the first 5 minutes or the
second
5 minutes of A New Hope. And Choco, what did you cover?
Oh man, mine was just
toward the end of The Last Jedi.
Oh yeah, man. I got the Kylo Luke fight, and Luke's send off was beautiful. Amazing experience. Please check out. Please check it out. Also,
Wait, I'm just gonna say
Xanthi-
Camilla got the episode where it was Luke and Leia saying like goodbye, and we like almost both cried.
It was very emotional, and it was such a great convo. But yeah, I was like rewatching the scene just with the music to prep for it, just sobbing in my apartment. So good.
I can only imagine how many episodes are like crying episodes because of the music.
I'm actually really excited though for tomorrow when Xanthi covers Book of Boba Fett episode 4 music. There's some cool stuff in there.
I forgot to mention on my channel, Star Wars Music Minute, we are doing Book of Boba Fett coverage. We don't do it like immediately after because, well, it's a couple friends and I, and we talk about the music and we demonstrate stuff, and we're all musicians. So it takes us a few days to like prep for that live stream. But yeah, there's a percussionist and like a flautist / we're all sound music people, and we really get into the details of the music that has happened in the Book of Boba Fett. Like it's more like analytical and talking about the instruments that are happening and the through lines that we're noticing. And I've like started like kind of a catalog of themes that I'm noticing and trying to keep track of them and everything.
So you have your own catalog of musical
of Boba Fett themes.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, a lot of those conversations get really, really deep, and I love them. So follow Camilla and follow Xanthi if you aren't already. On their TikToks are right there on the screen. If you can type it in your phone right now, just do it. We'll wait.
While you're doing that, go ahead and put a like on this stream. I'm guilty myself of like joining streams and like not liking them, but like it does help. That's like YouTube's #1 thing.
Shout out to everyone in the chat. Darthman86, Kenny's at work. Thank you for tuning in. St. Pat, Haley, Corellia Coffee Works. Shout out to Haley. Star Wars lawyer Chris. We are all the Republic. Yes, we are. Brooke is in the building. Hello, friends. Haley says, when you can immediately tell it's going to be an amazing conversation. Of course it's going to be an amazing conversation. High Republic has been the source of so many amazing conversations thus far since its inception.
Absolutely.
And then also, we have Podwans. Really quickly. Go ahead, Choco.
Yeah. No. Keep talking about people in chat. I was going to say, in addition to talking about this, we've been wanting to do this as an episode because we, some of y'all have been able to meet up and stuff and do cool things. But yes. All 4 of us got to meet up and hang out. That was my first time, technically my second time hanging out with TikTok people. I ran into Ren's Empress and Yo Boyo. At Comic-Con, but first time actually hanging out. That was cool.
Yeah, this is like a reunion, so to speak, a virtual reunion of the live action reunion.
Yeah, there you go.
It's
that
crazy.
was really fun. That was a fun afternoon.
Yeah, I already miss you guys. Like the importance of human contact was so prevalent that day. When I got home, I was like, man, I missed them already. What the hell's going on? I got semi-emotional.
Soon, we'll be reunited again.
Yeah.
It was just weird being outside for that long. I'm just like, what is this?
Yeah.
Man.
I know, we went on a walk and everything.
Yeah.
All this air moving around, like it's just weird.
Yeah, ambient noises and everything. Like it reminded me of like the first time August was in the city. If you've Choco, you have to watch August Rush. But in the movie, the first time he's in the city, he's hearing like the sirens, the ambulances, and like a symphony is forming in his head. And it was kind of the same feeling. I mean, just not having the unresponsive Choco in the DM where he was right next to me, that was a huge change of pace. I appreciated that. Also,
hey man.
Yes,
it's true. It hurts.
Also, I'm a hobbit compared to like, it's not so noticeable over TikTok. You watch each other's videos and you're just like concentrated on the subjects and then the topic. But like, I was like looking up at Camilla and I was like, my goodness, why are like, and then I looked up a little bit at Choco and I was like, why is everyone so tall?
Yeah, I feel like every time I will meet people in person that I've met through TikTok, everybody is just like, you weren't kidding when you said that you were 6'2", and I'm like, not something I would kid about. I'm a very tall person.
Yeah. You had Xanthi down there with you.
Yes.
It's true. And I'm not usually considered a short person, but compared to Camilla.
Yeah. I think Choco is considered short compared to Camilla too.
I think everyone is. That's fine. Well, at least I'm short compared to Black Chrysanthemum, and that's all that matters, right?
That
right.
really is all that matters.
You really have to be looking up to Chrysanthemum, don't you?
Even if you were taller, you'd still be looking up to him. He's just has that presence.
Would you kind of buckle your knees and able to look up to him? Is that the kind of person that Chrysanthemum is?
He's the type of person that you say "sir" to all the time, like regardless of age. Like, sorry, sir. Like, Mr. Santy.
Santy?
Yeah.
That's my nickname, or Xanthi's my nickname, and my mom calls me Santhi. So like Xanthi's also a nickname. I flinch every time someone talks about Chrysanthemum because it's just rare that I hear the beginning of my name so much and like the end because my last name is Tan.
You did mention it earlier, not to be confused. Now I'm like Chrysanthemum. The Soda Man says that sounds awesome. Regarding Xanthi's Star Wars Music Minute channel. I'm a musician, played trumpet, piano, and guitar since 5th grade. Love music. There's so many musicians in our community. Some of whom we didn't know were musicians, and it's honestly incredible. The talent that we have in this. What is it, Choco? What's going on?
Oh no, I just love the support in the chat.
And I'm laughing because my mom's in chat saying,
That's
Xanthi, what a
fine.
nice name, as if she didn't give me my name.
Man, I did good. It's basically what they say.
Good job, Terry.
Beth in the chat, shout out to Beth, the other half of Open Circle Fleet. All Star Wars music is crying music if you just believe. I believe that, and I do believe that all music is crying music in the right context, you know.
I recently had a walk down memory lane by creating a TikTok using some classic love songs, but now I can't get them out of my head, and they make me sad too.
Oh man. So Connor says, Element, aren't you and Choco like musicians as well? So I play instruments because I'm Filipino. I don't consider myself a musician because like I don't like write music. I can just play instruments. I don't know about you, Choco.
I do.
That's never been a criteria, by the way.
Is it a criteria? Is that what you're asking?
No.
Pep, you make it sound like someone that plays like in an orchestra isn't a musician if they aren't themselves writing the music.
I guess so. I guess it's a little bit closed-minded of me. I'm just being modest, really. I would have never described myself as a musician, but... All right, well, what's the definition of a musician? Just playing music?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Having a song in your heart. That's all you need.
A song in your heart.
I can sense your song, Choco. Like Avar can sense everyone else's.
I myself I am a percussionist. That's the only like thing I would truly say is my jam. But y'all have never seen me do it. So
Yeah.
I do dabble a little bit in some other things like guitar and whatnot, but yeah, no, I've been playing in bands for like past
see
I
my
don't know
guitars.
12 years.
No, guitars are too high on the wall. Okay.
For anyone who was worried, Element has replaced his camera mount, so
Yes.
it's not gonna fall down on us again.
Super strong, not flaccid at all. Won't be, getting sad throughout the show. Pod Wants Podcast says Chewy hears the dog and is saying hi.
Elsa says hello back. Elsa and Anna over here.
Okay, so let's go on to our first topic, which is High Republic Phase 1. This is like the big one here because there's a lot to cover. So I wanted to start the conversation a little bit broad, so to speak. So, Xanthi, the first question I would like to pose to you and to Camilla is there any High Republic story that stands out to you? Now, this is like, condensed or consolidated story and not necessarily the entire book of something, right? So I'll just go first with a quick answer. Like the story of Imri going to the dark side and fighting Vernestra, and that exchange between the two, that's one of my favorite stories in the High Republic. So off of that, what is your favorite story in the High Republic?
Mine would have to be Imri as well.
Mm-hmm.
In general, Imri, Vernestra, Honesty, and Avon. Pretty much. There will be many opportunities for me to get more into this later. But it sounds like these are sort of short, so I don't want to eat up everyone else's time. But that's my teaser to.
You could
go
feel
for
free
it.
to
Go all
elaborate.
in.
I'm just saying, like, in terms of what your favorite story was, like, choose a small portion and then go ham on like the details.
Gotcha. Well, in that case, it's what I just said, and A Test of Courage kind of happens to encapsulate what pretty much all my favorite stories in the High Republic are, all in one book. So I could also say like that book, but another one that I did that I enjoyed was Sills. I forgot one of the Wave 2 books. I think it was also Justine Ireland, Silvestri.
Yeah.
Is that her name? That's her name, right?
Yeah.
Sil.
Yeah.
But those, like A Test of Courage, I think was like a beautiful little, that's my favorite book in all of High Republic, is A Test of Courage. And I just think it does so much in so small of a space. And I found myself really connected to those characters and what they were going through in that small period of space. And we'll talk more about this later, but that's who I connected with most, is the people in that book.
Awesome.
Nice. Have you jumped into Mission to Disaster yet?
I finished it. Mm-hmm.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites too. It's actually so this is to let you guys know in the chat, this is proof in the pudding that like you cannot underestimate the youth readers at all, because their stories are just as compelling as the YAs and the adults. The reading level is easier, but the stories are still very much great stories, and they're some of my favorites too. Camilla, what about you? Your favorite story?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm in a similar camp as Xanthi in saying that it's like my favorite story is also revolves around a character that I really connect with and relate with. And the first one that popped in my head was Elzar, specifically in The Fallen Star, but I don't want to go too in depth because that's going to be just spoiler city. So that is a surface level one. But another one that I think about a lot is Lula. specifically connecting from her conversation with Vernestra in Race to Crash Point Tower, and then in High Republic, the Great Jedi Rumble Race. Because one of her big struggles is struggling with attachment and finding balance in loving and caring for your friends and your family, and then also the duties of a Jedi and the fact that you like have these this weight of greatness on your shoulders and striving toward that. And so I mean, what and I'm sure we'll talk about it, and I know like you talked about this a lot, Pep, but like with the youth readers and middle grade novels, they've all done a really great job of taking these big concepts and just bringing them down to a level that's really digestible. And attachment, I feel like, is one of the Jedi concepts that we've been slapped over the head with for so long, but like how much of us have actually fully understood that and seen that broken down, not in the context of Anakin turning to the dark side. So that is like something that I revisit a lot, specifically Lula's conversation with Vernestra about attachment in Race to Crash Point Tower. That just like really hit home for me. So that's definitely up there.
Absolutely. There are some of my, if I'm being honest, like some of my more favorite stories and characters to follow are the Padawans and just the younger Jedi who are still learning. It's just a great breath of fresh air compared to all of the masters and knights from the prequel era. What about you, Choco?
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, what you always say about these young readers makes me think of the interview that Claudia Gray had with Alex over at Star Wars Explained, where she mentions like, listen, all of Star Wars is young adult. It's coming of age stories. We watched Luke come of age. We watched Anakin come of age. We watched Rey. Like, that's all of Star Wars, and that's what these stories are. The only thing that changes with these youth readers is the scope of the book. We're telling a smaller, more contained story, and smaller meaning dealing with less people and places, but not in concept and in heart or quality for that matter. So yeah, highly recommend them if you haven't checked them out yet. And much like my Dyad, who, by the way, we did not plan to wear the same color shirt. It just kind of happens. So it's a weird thing about having a Dyad. It's just
I didn't even notice it.
Is sometimes you wear the same thing. Sometimes you have the same comments. Sometimes we make the same video on the same day. Sometimes we have the same guest on in the same week because I didn't even think about it. It just happens. Anyhow.
Just Dyad things. Thanks, Beth.
Seeing these young Jedi be Jedi is so cool to me. I love Belle and Reith and Vernestra. Those are my favorite people because we're watching people who are either just made or about to make that transition from Padawan to Knight, and I think that's just a fascinating time where we can kind of see the tenets of the order of what you are taught to do versus the reality of what you have to do in order to survive. And any of the stories and all the stories deal with this, but those are really what tug at my heartstrings. Specifically, though, Belle's my dude. The Rising Storm is my favorite book, and man, there's some moments that just hit you in the gut,
Oh yeah. If you had to pick a moment or a small story from that book, would that be like his time, like his struggle in the wreckage? I'm trying to be as high level as possible.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if I'm shrinking down that book into my favorite little aspect of it, it would be Stellan Gios and just his endless fight. And I just felt how tired he was. And he's just like, oh, I'm tired. Things are broken. And every time you think they're gonna be okay. They're not. But they have, they do it in such a great way. But Bill's story of overcoming fear and loss is beautiful.
Yeah. Shout out to the people who are St. Pat just finished Race to Crash Point Tower today. It was so good. Honorable mention to Ram. Just out here trying to fix things and be the goodest mechanic, and then just having an adventure of a lifetime on his droid. Again, all of the books are amazing in the High Republic, and everyone should read every single one if you have the time, if you have the wherewithal to read them all. Brooke is starting Midnight Horizon this weekend, and she's so excited. I still have to start it. I'm trying not to.
Is that out?
It's not out, but I mean the ARCs are likely out. I mean, they are. I mean, I'm not gonna beat around the bush. We have them, but I'm trying not to start it as early as I've started other books, because I don't. It's
lonely.
Yes, I don't like to hold on to that information. And holding on to Fallen Star for what was that, 3 or 4 weeks? And then even after it came out, I still had to wait another week. It's just like, yeah, it's a
the inability to like debrief that book with someone. I don't know how I would have eventually been able to handle that.
Well, yeah, as soon as it came out, I was like, "Hey, I finished this. Let's talk. Just DM me and tell me where you are, and we'll process it little by little."
Yeah, I feel bad because I don't have the attention span or schedule that would allow me to finish at the same rate that Pep does. And so each of these waves, he's been ahead. Well, mostly.
Why did you finish Midnight Horizon?
I'm certainly further in it than you are, but no. With the second wave, I was out ahead. If you recall.
Oh, it's only for a little bit though. I think I had started. You were like, "Oh, I'm on chapter 30 of like Rising Storm," and then I was like, I think in like 3 or 4 hours, I was like, "Did you finish it?" Is that how it went?
No, I'm thinking of Out of the Shadows personally.
Oh, okay. All right. So does anybody have any final thoughts on like any kind of stories they want to touch on from phase 1?
In terms of like favorite ones?
Yeah, if you have any others you want to mention.
Not particularly.
It's.
I feel like she has more to say.
Yeah.
I have more. I do have more to say, but like I don't know when I don't know how to get it out and when to do it, because my confession, which you already know from when we hung out, is that I'm not very moved by the High Republic, and I have read everything except Midnight Horizon. I was not moved by the Falling Star or Light of the Jedi, which Rising Storm, I was interested more, but like it's not that I didn't like High Republic. It's just that sometimes when I approach a work, or sometimes when I walk away from like reading something or watching something, sometimes I am really invested in what happened. I was really gripped. I was really, really into it. I'm feeling like a passion for it. I was taken along for a ride. It's an emotional journey. I'm identifying with things. And sometimes I don't walk away with the feeling, but like I can still mine that thing for like the parts that I think are going to be cool to keep in mind for later, which is the spirit that a lot of Star Wars books, it's the spirit in which I read a lot of Star Wars books, with, not necessarily setting the high standard of it being like everything being like a life-changing book. Some of them are like amazing. Some of them just really, really hit me, and a lot of them don't hit me, but there's a lot that I find cool about them. And it's just a more like cerebral thing that I'm getting out of it. And High Republic was like that for me. I was so unmoved by most of it, except for the Test of Courage, really, that like at this point, like I was reading them like to pick up little bits of lore maybe, or like to pick just to like get the story, just to put it together, because, you know, then maybe the emotion can come later when I've like really put it together and had like years to think about it or whatever. It wasn't like the type of thing where I was like after reading each novel, I wasn't particularly invested or swayed. Like in Fallen Star, I thought it was actually like, I was just like, how many, okay, there's gonna be a lot of chapters of people dying. Okay, all right, another one, cool, another one. Okay, let's just get through this, all the deaths. Okay. Like I'm not like gripped, and I wasn't emotionally invested in any one character enough to care when any of them died. And I mean none of the deaths shattered me at all in that, even though some characters I thought were really cool and I would have liked more exploration, we didn't get more exploration. So other than like the fan thing, like my own headcanon that was building them up, like I didn't feel like anything was super offered. Even, I won't say who, but even such an innocent character who may have died, even I wasn't that moved by that, because I don't feel like that character was ever became a character other than just like a cute plaything, like just a cute like accessory to the main people. Like I never felt that. And so that's how I feel about the High Republic. Like there's little aspects of it that I find really cool ideas. I'm like, there's really cool stuff in there, but I was not like, oh my gosh, Light of the Jedi just really impacted me. Rising Storm really impacted me. Fallen Star really impacted me. A lot of it, I felt like I was a missing part of the story, or it would make more sense if I had read the comics in a different order, or like if I had read some things before other things, or I just felt like I was not understanding why I should care that much. And even in Fallen Star, I was like, are people even going to care if they didn't read Into the Dark about like a whole other side plot? Like, I feel like so much of it, I feel like requires, I love Claudia Gray, like, what's that one? Lost Stars?
Yeah.
Lost. Like, that's a story where it's like, I would have been like wrecked if any of those characters died, or like if any of the characters in that, like, or even if it wasn't a death, but just a rejection or something. Like this story was scaled in that book. Like I know Claudia Gray can do it. That's the thing. Like the story was scaled in such a way that like the tiniest perturbance could really make me feel something. But I feel like in the High Republic Phase 1, especially by the time you get to the Fallen Star, it's like the only way to invoke more emotion is just to keep going even more brute force, to even just like do another slaughter and just make it even bigger and make it even more tragic in a really huge grand scale way. It was like too much. Like I think I just maxed out like so early that I was like dead after that to the subtleties of anything. So
That's actually pretty valid. I mean, I see a lot of the points that you've made.
It's one of the reasons why I have been encouraging people, because there's been a lot of talk, especially, you know, on TikTok and Twitter and stuff like that about this book, and I'm trying to encourage people. Sorry, I'm trying to encourage people. Don't read this book until you've checked out some other stuff. Because it's not gonna hit, and not that you haven't, but certainly valid if it didn't kind of click like that. But I love it. I love how all of us can read the same thing and pull different things out of it in different amounts and whatnot. And I'm certainly glad you enjoyed Lost Stars. I love that book so much.
Yeah.
Brooke says, I'm with Xanthi. I take a long time to process how I feel about something, and there are very few things that grip me immediately. I usually have to come back to it 2 or 3 times. So, yeah, I mean, it's very interesting to get, you know, different points of views and takes on the High Republic. Certainly, you know, we've spoken to a lot of people who just couldn't get into Light of the Jedi, couldn't finish it. Some people who hate the characters that we love, and It's it's definitely a mixed bag in terms of finding the things that resonate with you the most in pretty much all of Star Wars. Like there's, again, it's just like your movie rankings. Like not everybody has the same ranking of their top 5 movies. It's from me to the next person to the end of time. There's no ranking that's the same, right? Even Choco and I's ranking is different, and that's it.
Yeah, and I want to say to the light of Jedi. So I think I appreciate what you were saying, Xanthi, and your perspective on it, because I feel like I'm completely different, and it's definitely just because of the way that we read things and the way that we react and process things. Of course, we're all going to have different opinions, and that's what makes it so beautiful to see the way that we interpret these stories. And so for me with Light of the Jedi, the way that it opened immediately hooked me, because I was like, it struck me the violent. We're spoiling. We've been spoiling the beginning of Light of the Jedi, right?
You can spoil Light of the Jedi.
I guess the rule of thumb is if they had like the excerpt out, that's like fair game.
Oh, yeah, they were like they dropped like the first several chapters of Light of the Jedi a year ago, didn't they?
Yeah, the first 5 chapters. Yeah.
Excellent. So we when we first meet that first character, and I was like, yeah, she's awesome. This is like such a cool captain. Like I'm so into this. And then end of the chapter, gone. And it just like struck me and then that kept happening throughout the chapters. And then it just like struck me the violence of people who seemed like they were going to get to have the beings of the galaxy coming out of me. That like these background people that we thought, oh, you are going to get to be the hero of the story, like are like wiped out. And I think just that through line throughout the High Republic with how just the evil of the Nile and that they take with no regard for the beings in the galaxy and the people in the background. I just like really connected with each of these just normal everyday people and how they were the casualties of this horrible, horrible thing that the Nile were doing.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. It sounds like you, like Camilla, like can find
the force is strong with this.
Like it doesn't take you long to it doesn't take your character long to win you over into already caring about them.
Yes.
Whereas for me, if it's like one chapter, oh, we get this whole thing for one chapter and then they die, I'm like, okay, and next. Like I didn't have it was not enough time for me to develop a connection to them anyway. And so that's why almost like the more deaths, like almost the more detached I became because I wasn't having time to connect with anyone. But hearing you say that, like even in the first few chapters of Light of the Jedi, which I can't imagine like being moved by the beginning of Light of the Jedi, but it just, this is why it's like good to talk to other people, because clearly like we just not even interpret, like just our souls have different feelings about the same thing.
Yeah. Now, conversely to that, would you say, Xanthi, that you're the kind of person who, once you connect with a character, you're in for the long haul, and once they like really hook you in, and you're letting go of them no matter what they go through, it's hard for you to like let them go.
Yeah, and for me, it's not like life and whether someone dies to me isn't. If I really care about a character, me caring about whether they die or not is like the least of my worries. If I'm like really care about a character, like then I care if they get rejected, or I care if someone says the wrong thing to them, or I care if they like accidentally wore the wrong thing. Like then I care about like way more details in their life that are more than just whether they survived or not, which is like a little bit too big of a concept for me to consider on a person to person basis. Like, and you know, like if we think of like Padme's handmaidens, like I cared about each of them in like different ways. Like I would, you know, not want them to be fighting, and like, you know, even just, it's just way more than deaths to me. I want time to care about what a character is wearing.
Yeah. I love this moment that's happening right now, because like, this is why Choco and I started what we're doing with the podcast, is like getting people to talk to each other that have different perspectives, different points of views, and just kind of meld and be like, oh, like, you know, just kind of open each other's eyes. Choco's ranking has changed. My ranking has changed for a lot of things over the course of the last year or so, talking to different people who say different things about the movies they love that I didn't love, and seeing what's important to them. And to Camilla's point, like, I think there's something to be said about the tragedy and the loss of characters that you didn't get enough time to spend, didn't get to spend enough time with, because it sort of creates this sort of like it creates this narrative where each person you meet is like potentially going to be someone, but the reality that it sets in that they could go at any moment, and no matter how deep they go into their story, or no matter how broad they go into someone else's story, their tragedy is going to be a consequence in some way. And like the first time that I got hit, like the first couple of chapters of Light of the Jedi was pretty startling, but the first time I got hit was with a person I knew nothing about, and it was a captain on one of the ships that was trying to evacuate, and that chapter ended with him going, "We are all the," and then nothing. Couldn't finish his sentence, and I was like, and I had to stop and cry, because like, I don't know him, but like I can just imagine the circumstance with which he finds himself, and the decision to sacrifice himself to save others. It's like just the concept of that scene was made me cry, because like, well, and it was also written beautifully. Like, they had established this "We are all the Republic" catchphrase, like hammered it in the first 8 to 10 chapters, like, this is it, we're all the Republic, we're all the Republic. The guy didn't get to finish it, and I was like, that's so sad.
Yeah, I'm one of those weirdos that I
found nothing.
I just I care about everyone that I meet. Anyone that feels earnest and real, and like, I recorded on Star Wars Music Minute, and I was like, Anthony is so cool. Like, I need to like introduce you to all these other cool people in this community. And right then I was like, all right, I'm doing a music episode of The High Ground. I'm going to bring people on, because I've been wanting to talk music just in general. And like, I don't know, that's just kind of how I am. I love people, and I love facilitating people having a good time. That's just my thing. And so like for me, I'm on the other side of that spectrum, where I just, I can look at any of these characters, and the one that I know I bring him up all the time, but there was the person, because I felt like I've been that person, where he has a crappy job and his boss sucks and he does all the work, and like, and all the only thing that's keeping him going is the hot Twi'lek at the bar, and he hasn't gotten quite the courage to ask her out yet, and he never gets to. And I feel like I've been that person, and so I connected with that one more than any of the other characters, because I'm like, Star Wars and Star Wars books in general have conditioned us to believe that these core members of the book, or the people that are introduced that way, are going to make it through. Bad things are going to happen to them, but like, largely we wouldn't be getting this much information if they're not going to be, they're dead. And I'm never going to like get the rest of the story that I wanted, because I wanted the best for this person, and I'm just never going to get that. But yeah, that's just kind of how how I work in the context of these stories.
Maybe it's that I didn't like after the first few characters were taken away like that. I was just like, okay, well, I'm not even gonna believe like the next. Like I'm not gonna get invested. So maybe I'm like trying to protect myself or something. But another thing I was thinking was like, for me, like I said, I don't have a heart sometimes when it comes to stuff like that. Or, I mean, I shouldn't say that. I do, but like something that really affected me deeply, like that really ate away at me more so than any of the deaths was like the shame that Vernestra was holding on to regarding her lightsaber. And I was like, the one thing that I wanted was like, I just really was like scared for her, but I knew she had to do it. And I related to her, like in having to talk to her master about it or her former master about it at some point. And I was like, see, that's the kind of story that I was really like, I really felt for her there.
Yeah.
Because like I cared, like, I don't know, like it takes a type of like writing and setup of a character, I think, for me to get to the point where like something of that much detail is something that I'm like really latching onto. Like I really cared about Vernestra. I really like cared about Honesty and Emery and Avon. Those smaller stories that aren't necessarily life and death, but can be life and death, but are like all the shades in between.
Yeah.
I really care for Honesty specifically. Like, I need good things to happen to Honesty.
I just started caring more for Avon in Mission to Disaster.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah. All of those characters from A Test of Courage, like, they're the ones you're like, please let them grow up. You know?
Yes.
I saw that face. Just me.
But that's the beauty of these stories. Like you'll read them and like, you know, I would never have thought that I would be interested in the relationship between Yane and Yane and Sache. And then you get there and you're like, oh, I I want them to be and then they have a house and you're like, yeah, that's cool.
Shout out to Meegs, Fangirl Meegs in the chat. If you're not following her, she is at Fangirl Meegs. Also, I totally like within the depth of this conversation, I totally missed Ace Bronx's $3 ramen drop. Thank you, Ace Bronx, for that super chat. Let's see here. The start of The Light of the Jedi set up the whole mood and what type of story it was going to be. The death of that station operator showed another level of storytelling. And then Meek says... No, Meek is just having a conversation with Luke. Beth says, these types of discussions are why I love this side of the Star Wars fandom so much. This side of the Star Wars fandom is absolutely amazing. And then, here's what Meeg says. I totally felt the same as Xanthi. I was so overwhelmed with all the people unaliving, so I tried to disconnect from some of it, like, just in case. So almost as if, like, it had an opposite effect for some people. Where some people tried to, or got desensitized to it and just didn't want to, just in case that happened to them. To the character? Is that what could that be a valid thing?
Subconsciously, yeah, it could be part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I tried.
Although I also think a lot of it was just that I didn't care about them yet. A little bit of both, you know?
Yeah, so sometimes it takes time. Let's see here. I expected pain, so Fallen Star didn't hit me as hard as I thought. Well, good for you, Xanatos.
Good. I expected pain and was crying the entire book.
Yeah. I wish I could numb myself to some of these things, because I expected a lot. The first time we were talking about Fallen Star, me and Choco were talking about our predictions, and we were just talking about how many people wouldn't survive, as the poster says, who will survive. And I still couldn't handle it. I still was just distraught. And this kind of goes into our next kind of topic for phase 1 is, and this is like a twofer. Who is your favorite High Republic character, and how has High Republic changed Star Wars for you? And we'll start with Camilla this time.
Yeah, I kind of talked about Lula, so I bounce back and forth. After Fallen Star, like Elzar jumped so high on my list of characters that I love, because I enjoyed his plight in Rising Storm, but yeah, Fallen Star really. So I'll talk a little bit about Elzar and why he's one of my favorites, and trying not to spoil Fallen Star, but it's like the culmination of his arc in this phase with what he goes through in Fallen Star, I thought was really powerful, and I really connected with it, and it's really deeply related with it. And how he's wrestling again with attachment and the dark side and finding balance with it, and then just the idea of not spoiling it, but in his weakness, it's when Elzar is quote unquote the weakest among the Jedi that he's able to be the most help. And there's a line from Orla, and I'm not going to say it because it's going to spoil it, but I think everybody here, if you've read it, you know what I'm talking about. It's a moment where she looks at him and she says, like, "You are our only hope." And that just like really struck me, that he in everything that he was going through was able to help. But still, like, that's not it. His journey isn't over, and the way that his arc ended, I think was like really interesting and conflicting in a interesting and complex way, and I hope we get to see more of that. And then the two-parter, how has the High Republic changed Star Wars for you? I think it's just been really helpful to understand the Jedi better and what they were supposed to be. Like, I feel like for me, especially in the prequel trilogy, they just always felt like I always felt distant from them, that I could never like connect with them. Like, they were up here and I'm down here and I'm supposed to be like the Jedi, but there's absolutely no way possible I could ever be like the Jedi. But it feels like the High Republic was taking these Jedi and putting them in situations that we can all relate with and things that we're struggling with, and is like, let's work through these very real things that people struggle with and apply these Jedi teachings to it and help you work through it, and then also see things not always end in tragedy, where it's not always a cautionary tale like it is, Anakin in the prequel trilogy. Not that I don't love exploring Anakin's arc, but yeah, and also just like, you just feel the Force so fully in the High Republic era and with the High Republic Jedi, and I didn't know that I was missing that in Jedi stories until I read the High Republic and have dug through the High Republic, because generally I would say my favorite Star Wars stories are the ones that aren't about Jedi and are more about normal people and rebel heroes and all of that good rebel scum stuff. But yeah, no, the High Republic just feeling the Force and connecting to the Force more deeply, like really, really struck me and stuck with me. And I feel like I learned a lot about the Jedi and can apply it to my own life in a way. So that was like really, really meant a lot to me.
Awesome. Yeah. So like, I mean, my answer to this has a lot, or relates a lot to what you said. And my answer is going to be Vernestra, I think, because we spent so much time prior to, and this is also goes into how the High Republic has changed Star Wars for me. We spent so much time with the Masters and the Knights in the prequel era. so much time interpreting Anakin's tragedy, interpreting where it all went wrong, the teachings, that going into the High Republic with Padawans and younglings learning from Yoda, and Vernestra, who is a new knight, and also at the same time with not so much as, a summer break, becomes a new master, and not a master in rank, but a master to a Padawan. And it's this journey that she has, where she has her own and it's not lost on her that she is too young for this. I see a lot of from a lot of people who don't really read the books, but we'll save that for another conversation. A lot of criticisms that it's impossible for her to become a knight at that age, and I just love that she is a knight at that age, because that's not lost on the writers. It's not lost on the people who are doing this. She knows that she is too young to be a knight, or not too young, but rather she still needs to learn how to be a knight before she can become a master. And her relationship with Imri is, he teaches her as much as he teaches him, and then just trying to find that happy medium of teaching each other and then still remaining master and Padawan is incredible. And so Imri, all of the Padawans, but Vernestra included, their journey has provided so much more learning as to how the Jedi operate, including Lula and Zine and all of the adventures characters, than anything we've gotten before the High Republic. And it has shaped how I view the Jedi Order now than I did before. And that's not to say before I thought they kidnapped children and and trained them to be soldiers, but yeah, they're in a much different light than they were in the prequels, and we've learned so much about the Jedi and the Force through these Padawans and younglings than we did before. I feel like Xanthi wants to say something.
I feel like I was gonna say same Jedi, different era, just more of them, same as the prequels. I think that they have not I don't think the Jedi of the High Republic have any less hubris than the Jedi of the prequels necessarily. I think they're under extremely different circumstances, but one of the things that struck me from the beginning of Wave 1 was oh, these Jedi are kind of full of themselves. There's they're on top right now, and that's fine and everything. And so I get that they're heroes right now, but I always felt like they were on the edge of going into prequel Jedi. I felt like they were always on the edge of that. And I don't think that means I don't think the Jedi are bad either. But I do feel like the line. I feel like there's not as big of a gap between what we see as obviously more flawed versus something that's more thriving. I think I don't know, I can see the conditions that could influence, the High Republic eventually becomes the High Republic Jedi eventually become the prequel Jedi. So unless there's a complete change of hands, which there's not, because Yoda and some other people do remain, there is something that already the seeds are there already. And, it's not it's just that maybe certain aspects of that plant has grown more in the prequels and are in a different condition where they're not thriving in the same way. And so we can see the flaws more easily contrasted, along the, contrasted against the prequel background. But I feel like I was seeing a lot of the same cracks in the Jedi in the High Republic, which doesn't take away from my enjoyment of the story. I mean, I like the prequels. I like flawed Jedi. I don't mind that. But that's definitely not something that I took away from High Republic. If anything, it was just that we can all think that we're the good ones. We can all think that we're like but history might not look down on us that way. You know, I even think about it when we think about like the good side of Star Wars Twitter or TikTok or whatever. I'm like, do I even count? Who does everyone everyone probably thinks they're on the good side. The good side. Is there anyone who's like, I'm on the bad side? No, I probably not.
Yes.
Probably.
No, I've
maybe.
seen people that specifically are like, yeah, we're
On
the
the bad
toxic
side.
ones. But
Oh,
what we
goodness.
like is better than what you like. You're like, okay, whatever. Block.
Oh goodness. Well, as someone who's never been like fully, I'm never sure whether I'm being seen or whether I am a good or a bad person. I mean, I don't really, those distinctions don't really make sense to me on an internal level. And so because of that, like to go backward in the questions, like I related more to the characters who had who had a lot of questioning inside of them.
And that's something that I want to touch on with you, because when I speak of a gap in the Jedi we see from the prequels to the High Republic, it is individualistic. So the High Republic, what they set out to do, at least what the authors set out to do when like in the various interviews, was to show the cracks. And you are right to see those cracks forming into the prequel era Jedi. So when I say like this is what the Jedi should have been, I'm referring to, you know, the teachings that they passed down to their individual Padawans and the interpretations that the individuals come out with when they have a brush with the dark side and they tell themselves, don't let your emotions cloud your judgment or control your actions, but it's okay to feel emotions. These like interpretations on an individual basis are what they should have been teaching in the prequels, but we don't see them teaching that, you know. And so organizationally, as an institution, the Jedi had their cracks. They were already in too deep with the Republic, even though they weren't working for them in the High Republic. So I feel like if you follow the individuals like Vernestra, Emery Reith, Comac, Orla, all of these individual characters, they have their interpretations and they have their own teachings that are better, or at least in a more positive light compared to the teachings of the individuals that we hear in the prequels. The institution is there's like very little difference between the institutions, and it's just the characters themselves that have that I'm trying to say is like the huge difference.
I hear you, and I know exactly what you're talking about, and that was kind of another thing with the High Republic books that made me like not really sure about how I felt about them. And you're right, what you're saying by better and more positive, like you're referring to like we see more instances like in text of them acknowledging emotions and kind of guiding each other on like how to move through difficult stuff, whereas in the prequels we see the Jedi be black or white, or like, you know, you're in or out, and we see a lot more of that kind of behavior. I think the High Republic, I don't know, I step outside of myself sometimes when I'm reading things where I'm like, oh, I understand that people are going to really like this part. When I myself am not necessarily liking it, I just like immediately will step out and be like, it happens with music too. I'm like, people are really going to like this track best. I don't like it best, but I know everyone's going to like this one. Like, I don't know. So I think the High Republic made text a lot of things that were previously subtext to fans who wanted to see that. And so in the prequel era, like, I think we don't see on screen, we don't see like in the original scripts any shades of gray being discussed, and we don't see the sort of more humanistic side of the Jedi. But to me, that's not evidence that doesn't exist. And of course, we all bring our own things into an era and into, you know, how we interpret things. But I feel like all it would take is someone to write a comic about like a different Padawan, a different prequel era Jedi, like do a focus on Ki-Adi-Mundi. Like we don't, well, not Ki-Adi-Mundi, but we don't know. We don't know, like if, I don't know. I just feel like everything in Star Wars is just one extra comic or one extra piece of media that fills in some gap away. And so, do you know what I mean? Like that could be filled in later. And I'm not even trying to discuss what was canonically there or what wasn't canonically there. But I think what I got from the High Republic, because there are just so many more Jedi and we're seeing so many more Jedi conversations, is I kind of like take a snapshot of that and I'm like, yeah, probably every era had a little bit of that conversation too. Maybe not as much, and maybe it wasn't as part of the culture, and that's definitely like I would agree with that. But I don't think it was necessarily not present. Like at least for me, who I haven't read comics before until High Republic, so the view of the prequels that we get is like a very special case of a special group of characters, a very unique situation.
Yeah. I mean, and that's primarily why it's primarily why I shine a light on that difference. Like what about Star Wars has changed because of High Republic? That, like, this isn't me saying that those conversations didn't happen in the prequel era Jedi, but we got so little of that social dynamic between the Jedi in the prequels that this change in the High Republic, so many more Jedi, is enough to change almost my outlook of Jedi, because it was neither present or wasn't there for me to consume. So there's of course situations and conversations I can infer that happened in the prequel era, but to have that subtext in text changes Star Wars, a lot of Star Wars for me.
It changes, it changes part of, sorry, but like I feel like it's two different, it's like two different conversations almost. One is like what canonically changes what is Star Wars, like the text, and kind of like with Christianity and whatever, like, or the Bible, like there's also the side that is your interpretation of the text. And so for me, like what's on the text, I understand that like there's a change, but my interpretation, like how I've always interpreted it, like it didn't change my interpretation. It didn't change my understanding with Star Wars, because it just so happens that I already understood it that way. And like there were a couple other things, like the way that like the song of the Force and like the different ways that each person is manifesting the Force as well. Like I could tell that was something a lot of people were gonna get a lot out of. And for me, that was like, it's not that I didn't get a lot out of it. It was just like, it was putting to text something that I feel like was so obvious already. But the thing is, it wasn't obvious to everyone. That's totally an assumption. And so in that case, it was sort of like putting to text a subtext that I felt was more deep, was a lot richer and a lot like more complex than the way it was presented on page. Like I almost would rather they not talk about how everyone manifests the Force differently, because I'm like, now it just sounds like everyone's like a Power Ranger with their own like special. I'm a song Force person. I'm a person who sees the things. I'm a person, and I feel like that's a good start, and I feel like that is an important thing for a lot of fans to get. But again, while that changed maybe on text, what is Star Wars? It didn't change my personal understanding of Star Wars. It was just like, of course, like how could people, how were we not? Did people? But then again, like of course there are people who are like, people can't float in space, and there's people, and so I don't understand those people. Maybe that's like I just don't understand those people who are like, you can't do this with the Force. I don't know.
I feel like I'm in a similar boat, and that was one of the things I really appreciate about the High Republic, is that it actually does go into some depth and explain these things. Because the other conversations that I've been having, and I've had a lot of people like, oh, but the Jedi say that you can't have emotions. I'm like, they've never said that though. Like nowhere is that ever said. And actually, Anakin says the opposite in Attack of the Clones. I mean, he's clearly regurgitating what he's been taught, that it's about love. But this goes into depth about that. And it's funny because it is pretty, meta in the way that Star Wars was George Lucas's way of simplifying the big concepts of like religion and stuff like that for a young audience, where there are things that have happened in the world, and rather than address those directly, you can simplify it, distill it down, and put it on screen in a way that's entertaining to kids, so you can kind of learn how to deal with certain things. And then the High Republic takes a step back and does that for Star Wars itself. And that's one of the things I love. Like, we get Vernestra being really young and just knighted, but also having a student and understanding what the student is teaching her while she's trying to teach a student. And then that in and of itself is a window into what Obi-Wan had to have experienced, taking on a Padawan like practically the same day he got knighted, and how he may not have been ready for that responsibility, and how much stuff he had learned. I feel like Anakin aged him more than the Tatooine sun ever could. And we have I see people who will hate on Mace Windu, for instance, but you get to see, instinctively, you understand you can watch him in the Ryloth arc and see how much he cares about the clones and how much he cares about all the stuff. And we read Dark Disciple and you understand, he just watched Dooku slaughter billions of refugees after the whole little war had taken place, and he's like, do you think maybe we should stop this guy completely? And you're like, that is absolutely a conversation that should be had. A lot of people go against him because he brought it up, but then you can watch Avar and you can see the Nile, even when you are saving their life, they are still trying to kill you, even though it's going to kill them as well. And you're like, where is the line? I like how it takes a lot of these concepts and, like I said, it just kind of distills them down, and you understand what these people are having to deal with. And I love seeing those, like we've been saying, those cracks forming. You're like, there's certain questions well, how did the Jedi get so in bed with the Republic that this is an issue to begin with? And we see that it was out of necessity that relationship started to form. And I've made a few posts. One was what percentage do you think the Jedi are at fault or whatever? And people are going off, and they're so terrible and all this stuff, and they're responsible for everything. And then I made another video asking, what do you think they should have done instead? And it was like, well, given the situations, you see how they came to those conclusions. And you're like, you can't connect those two concepts, and I feel like High Republic is shaking those people by the shoulders, saying listen, this is how those two concepts intersect. This is how we got from the ideal of what things should be to the reality that even good people who have a wholesome heart and they're trying to do the best thing that they can, it still doesn't always work out. And I feel like that's the larger message, is that while evil does exist, true evil does exist, on the other side, pure good does not always win, and it's not incorruptible, and it's not perfect. There's no perfect organization. There's no perfect people. Everyone has their idea of what the right thing is, and sometimes those conflict and bad things happen because of those conflicts. But at the end of the day, those people still have to route together because true evil is a thing.
I have a follow-up question too about this is genuinely just a question in terms of maybe we've seen this just in canon media. So because this connects back to one of my favorite quotes from Light of the Jedi, where Jorah O'Malley says, is the action I'm about to take, she always asks herself, does the action I'm about to take bring more light to the galaxy? And if so, then I will do this. And like, that's the motto that she lives by. And that's always just like really struck with me. So, okay. So going back to the question of the Galactic Republic Jedi getting involved in the Clone Wars, what could they have done differently? Do we have any instances of seeing them consulting with the Force and asking, like, seeing the Force guiding them in their decisions? Because like, for me, it's always struck me, and seeing like the differences between, and maybe not the Jedi Order, but again, when we were talking about in terms of individual Jedi, you see more, I feel like I see more individual Jedi in the High Republic consulting the Force than I've ever seen in the Galactic Republic. And that's just a general question I have. Do we ever, how often are we seeing them conversing with the light side of the Force in the way that we see them in the High Republic? And if there's any like canon media and stuff that gets into that.
I don't recall seeing it, but it's referred to.
We see a lot of Yoda doing it.
Yeah.
Qui-Gon.
Is it in Revenge of the Sith novelization that they, or in some book, it could be High Republic, where they have like a vote on whether they should get involved? Is with the.
That's in Light of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Oh, that's in Light of the Jedi. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then that's when Jorah says, does the action I'm about to take? Comes right after she says that line.
Gotcha.
Yeah, in the prequels, we don't get. I mean, the only people that are truly seen meditating is Yoda and Qui-Gon. Really, we don't. And in any of the comics and books, I don't recall. And Choco, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't recall any kind of. Now we did get some like nice little Easter egg High Republic in Star Wars, but the most recent issue. But other than that, we don't really see them consulting the Force. You know, it's usually them having visions and then them having to like come to terms with what they've seen and interpret it and determine a course of action for that, and that could be the Force telling them or guiding them. But they never seek out its guidance. At least to
That's a good point, though, Camilla. Oh, it's a good point, though, that I do appreciate that the High Republic like lets us see so many decisions being made that are not necessarily just inevitable choices. And so that, yeah, I think it's, you know, it's like people like Mace Windu too. It's like people who is willing to put forth difficult things that maybe make the Jedi not look like the Jedi or something, in order to combat being passively swept away by horrible, like inevitable, like forces. Whereas, you know, someone like, not, you know, someone like Mace Windu or someone like Avar Kriss here, you know, are willing to make really, I don't know, heavy sort of decisions or propositions.
Yeah. It's I love this conversation. we got so deep, and I appreciate that the most. Whenever a conversation gets deep, and it's not like that's unprompted, you know, because like conversations that elicit a follow-up or elicit a train of thought that goes, I appreciate you guys.
Another thing too that the High Republic Jedi have, the Galactic Republic Jedi don't have, is Chancellor Lena So.
Whom I do not like.
Really? Oh, really? Okay, I want to hear why.
This is so funny.
I love Chancellor So.
Yeah, this is funny because I haven't talked to anyone about the High Republic, basically because like I don't know, like I'm not on TikTok enough, and plus I feel a little bit like because I'm not like as glowing as everyone else. It makes me feel like I should probably keep my feelings more to myself, or at least it's put a very high bar on me to like really make sure to like sit on these feelings for a year to make sure that like I'm not just being, check off all the boxes of like, am I being really unreasonable, unrational? Let me just read all of them. Let me get so into it that like it's not like I'm missing anything. And I try, and I feel like I've really tried, and plus like I'm not coming from a bad place, obviously, but it makes it hard to talk about. Plus, my friends don't read High Republic, so yeah, y'all are the first people that I've been able to say like, oh, people actually like Chancellor So. That didn't occur to me. From Light of the Jedi, I was like, I didn't trust her. It's not that I distrusted her. It's just that I didn't trust her because she's a chancellor. You can't trust a politician. Like, I just feel like there's no politician in Star Wars that I would trust. And it doesn't mean that they're not good at doing their job. Like, I would maybe trust that they're good at doing their job, but I would not put my faith in them in certain ways. And to me, like "We Are All the Republic" slogan, like that grated on me from the very beginning. Like, I just like
love it
all
so
of those
much.
like speeches, all of those like, and all of those all of those things rang very hollow to me, and it just was like anytime I just feel like no one should be put up to like put on a pedestal of being like a beacon to look up to. And I feel like the very plot device of Starlight Beacon has always just really bothered me. Like I just like that whole it's so singular and so like epic and so conspicuously epic and good, and so like we are all good and we are one, we are many, we do like it's so like I just thought like we were in a horror movie. There's like little kids have started to sing, like this is all going to go so badly, and which it did, so I guess that was accurate. But yeah, like I think I'm mistrustful of like anytime someone is regarded as too pure, like even a character like Boriaga, like that Boriaga's writing really bothered me. I did feel like, oh, what like he's so compassionate or whatever, but like of course all he does, like we don't know like very much about him other than that he's so pure and so like great and pure, and everyone translates for him, and he's so wonderful. And of course, yeah, I love him because he's so pure and perfect, but he's not like there was not like that much more other than that for me to grasp onto. It occurred to me that I think the way that I play with people, like growing up, like as a kid, like my childhood definitely impacts how I read these books. Like, doesn't everything go back to like how the lessons that we learned when we were really, really young, and just whatever is in our past. So I never liked group activities. I never liked group games. I liked doing things alone and hated anything that was like a group obstacle course or a class thingy or like a group project or any of those like field trips where you all climb on the things and then you have to work together to do a thing. And I think that's a big reason why, just fundamentally, not even that it was a bad story, that High Republic was hard for me to get into as such an ensemble work together cast. Like I really latched on to, like, I love the Thrawn books. Like those are like my favorite Star Wars books, is like the Thrawn. Like any Thrawn, not Rebels Thrawn, but like the books. Like I really, like I could live inside. I want to know so much about the characters, not just Thrawn, but like also the other characters in Thrawn. Like I do. I really love those really focused books. And just like High Republic is really great to me in theory, and so that's what makes it really tough to not love. Is like in theory I'm like really on board with it, and I think it's really cool. Like obviously they all have weaknesses, they all have strengths, but the fact that they all work together and then like kind of carry each other in through thick and thin in the ways that they not all carry themselves, I think is really beautiful. But just personally, it's hard for me to see where I fit in that, because in life, I've never really fit into something like that. I feel like I'm just reading about like all these cool kids or like all these people that are working together, and I don't understand why. And the goal of like saving the Starlight Beacon and opening the thing, something so like big and grand and noble, like I can't connect with. I can connect with like a much smaller goal, like Vernestra, you know, and her lightsaber, or Honesty trying to figure out his stuff, or like Imri trying to figure, like, that's why I really connected more with the young adult and middle grade characters. Like we're seeing like their fears are like, I'm having like, I don't know. It's like, I'm jealous of Vernestra, or like really pet, like small stuff that I can relate to. I can relate to those things being my goal. I can't relate to like being like, I'm going to play my part in a team and we're going to like open Starlight Beacon. And to me, that's like too divorced from reality, though. I'm glad someone is doing that in theory. I just don't really want to be part of that team, but go for it, team. Do your
No,
thing.
I mean, you are absolutely a way seeker yourself.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But what's funny is what you're saying right now, I really, really resonate with, because that was and still is me. Like, I love, sounds crazy, I love being by myself. Like, I could just be locked in a room by myself for like months and not notice it. You know what I mean?
That's why we probably both stream and stuff, to make sure that we don't do that.
So it is funny, but I actually had the same misgivings about Lena, because I was like waiting for the other shoe's gonna drop, and it's gonna drop, the camera's gonna turn off, and then she's gonna turn into a monster or something like that. And I've loved the fact that hasn't happened, and from everything we know, she is legit in all the stuff that she believes. Even when the character Tia Toon was coming around, and like I was kept waiting for her to like snap at him, and and then you find out he is not like evil or anything, and you're like, man, this is it's interesting. So I mean, there's definitely the both sides of it, because I've certainly been burned by people I've truly thought were good, but I also don't ever let that ruin my my own personal light, or my, I guess, optimism in people, while still being individualistic.
I'm also, I mean, I think it also is probably significant that like it's not for lack of like wanting to experience those feelings, but like I can't separate the fact, like I'm autistic, and I can't, and there's like just something fundamentally different in the way that I interpret social things. And obviously it doesn't mean that I can't have friends and relate to things in concept and have good one-on-one connections, but it's like I cannot really relate to certain types of like group goals, or like or things like that. And so that is just something that I carry to my reading of things, where I can't divorce that from how I read things, or what sticks and what doesn't. And if something doesn't stick, it's probably because it's like an ensemble cast or like an interconnected story, like, yeah.
No, it's cool to hear you say that. I guess, I don't know if cool is the correct word, but it is stuff that I very much relate to myself. I mean, I am also neurodivergent, and like even recently I started playing games online with Pep and with Cal. First time ever, like having a group to play an online game with, and it was just weird. I'm like, I just play solo games, and then also growing up, it was added to by the fact that I had every speech impediment known to mankind. That made things difficult. That's why I respect Meegs in the chat so much, because she's a speech therapist. I had one for many, many years, And yeah, it is funny because that's still how I approach a lot of things. With a really individualistic attitude, which is also why when I make content, I'm like, doesn't matter what other people think. I'm putting this out there.
In regards to what you guys were talking about, I think like I'm not a huge fan of Lena So either. I mean, I'm happy. Listen, Camilla, listen.
I think am I the only like I surely
No,
like,
I love
everybody
Lena
loves
So,
Lena So.
and I still feel
I don't
very
hate her.
strongly
I don't hate her.
that Padme has a Lena So calendar.
So
and has her biography under her book, under her pillow.
I don't hate Lena So
tomorrow.
okay. I'm just not a fan of her. I'm happy that she wasn't like the mustache twirling, I'm actually evil chancellor. But I agree with Xanthi with the whole like the great works and the Starlight Beacon. It all seemed very idealistic. And whenever like Tia Toon or the Jedi would talk to her about like what are the concerns here, like should we worry about security, or and like she would push like the importance of putting on this display of the Republic Fair. I was always in disagreement with Lena So about the importance of these things over the security of like or the or at least the threat of the Nile, or trying to minimize their threat to put on like airs with like the fair. And like I understood the importance of the beacon and the fair and the message that she was trying to put forth, but at the same time, like it's one of those things where like you can see both sides. And like when Tia is making his argument for security spending instead of putting on this grand show, you find parts of yourself agreeing with him and hoping that he wasn't evil. And luckily he isn't. But yeah, there's a lot more to love about Lena than her Chancellor self. I love Matari and Voru. Please save them at all costs. And yeah, I mean, I'm glad she's not evil, and I'm glad that she is authentic with what she puts forward, but her great works are very impractical. I'll say that.
Yeah.
All right, I'm just gonna jump in because I'm like sitting over here like I love her so much, and I'm like I totally hear and see where you all are coming from, and I appreciate this perspective because it's just a very helpful, I think. It's always just generally it's good to hear other people's opinions and why they see what they do, because then it also just helps you look into yourself and inform why you all feel this way about this character. Why do I feel so in love with her? And then you like look back to yourself, and it's a lot of self-reflection. It's like, I just get Lena So, and I just get her. We are all the like. I get that. So like that just hit me so deeply in my chest, because I was just like, I relate to her idealism and just her hope for like there's like this place, this galaxy can be a really dark place. There's like the frontier can be a really dark place, but we have the power to all be united and to make the world a better place for each other. And I'm in a position of power where I can bring that about. And so I have to hold tight. I like am a symbol. And if I hold tight to this, then maybe so many other people will hold tight to it. And then thus maybe then they can help other people unite the Republic and bring peace. And so it's like, I think it's she, in my head, when I see Lena, it's her having all of these great works and the hope that she can inspire other people to do the work to actually make the Republic a better place. And so I think it's, for me, when I see her, it's less about like, I'm going to accomplish all of these things to make the galaxy a better place. Rather, it is, if I, in my position of power with all these eyes on me, can hold so tightly to this hope, then maybe there are other people out there. And then just in The Fallen Star, you like see the culmination of that, like when people are showing up to help out from all across the galaxy. Like that made me like really, I was already sobbing through the end of the book, but like that was definitely one of the moments. The idea that like there could be so much evil in the galaxy, but there are like people out there, and it's like actually kind of making me I'm gonna start crying. So.
That's why we love you, Camilla, because like I see that in you. And like I even think about when we hung out, like I think Pep messaged me, and then like at some point, I don't know, was kind of giving me details, and then Camilla like took over with coordinating and like making sure that everyone got like that I got there, and that like, and of course I showed up last, like after you all had already eaten. Like I came at the end, and but Camilla was like, I don't know, making sure, like, I remember feeling, and I probably should have told you that day. I mean, we should probably all tell each other more stuff we appreciated about each other. But like, I remember being like, I really appreciate, like, this wouldn't have happened if Camilla hadn't been like such a, I don't know, like made me feel so like safe and communicated so clearly and been so like positive about doing this. Cause I'm someone who like, if something goes wrong, I'll just be like, never mind. It's okay. Like, and so like I always benefit like in real life from people who do keep like this, a sort of spirit alive for something and can draw me and other people like into their orbit because they see like that bigger picture when I see like not that. So that's fair. I don't think Lena So is evil or good. And like, I don't think any of them are good or evil, or like, I think in all these conversations, I just see people.
Is Markion evil?
No, I see. I think people have different aims, and the things that they propose accomplish different things. So like when Lena, wants to put on a display, and I forgot the other person's name, wants more security. Like they're both right to serve. They're different purposes. Like they will both accomplish different things, and so. Yeah.
And that's exactly why I love it so much, is both have very, like at the end of the day, a decision has to be made. And it's not like this is a right decision and this is a wrong decision. They both were well thought out, both have benefits, and you don't know what's going to happen on the other side. You just have to make a decision, knowing that no decision is worse than either. Mm-hmm. And I guess that's the thing. I love Palpatine. I love me some Palpatine. You know what I mean? Just evil for the sake of evil. You know what I mean? Like, he just wants to put everything under his foot and rule them and not care.
He's the only character in Star Wars that I don't understand. He's the only evil character that I'm okay with not knowing everything that goes behind that, Yeah. Everyone else I need to see like their shades. And so like the Nile, for example, I'm like, I don't like them as villains. Like, I don't think I don't like them as a threat. They're like kind of silly to me. But Palpatine, for some reason, I don't know. I think it's just because repeated exposure, probably.
Oh. Well, I mean, it's as cool as it is to have him as like this backstop of evil, to play Anakin against, to show like Anakin is not fat, but showing the High Republic where these decisions and choices put them in positions, and because they are consistent with these decisions and choices, and trying their best to be unselfish, they become predictable and then exploitable. And you're seeing how these certain just trajectories, everyone's on these trajectories, and they're largely in the same direction, but not exactly. And so all of these are going to collide or diverge at some point in time, and we're watching that happen in real time. And for me, the best part of the High Republic is having these conversations, because we don't know the end of it. You know what I mean? Like we are surfing on this wave. It's not like, game footage that we've seen and analyzed a million times in different perspectives. And, you know what I mean? Like we're experiencing all this in real time. And yeah, it's just the best.
I love it so much. I love this conversation. If anybody has any final thoughts before we move on, 60 seconds or not.
On the High Republic?
On just
Phase
this
one?
topic alone, because we are running out of time.
Oh, I can say in 10 seconds is I think the thing that would have made me love the High Republic is if those side stories were actually the main story and there was less emphasis on like the continuity and the interconnectedness and the group goal. But it was like those side stories, like the YA stories are just like those little things that were that were highlighted as the main stories and given like a whole novel, because I did find value in like those little pockets, like Orla training Elzar and like little things, but they were all such small parts that I think they could have been the whole thing.
There's still time. We can always get more books, please. I don't care. I'll take more books. A Vernestra book, Orla book, the Wayseeker book. I'll take it all.
You need the Jedi path, but like for the Wayseeker, like the Wayseeker path. That like those like the Jedi path, the Imperial Handbook, all of that, but for the Wayseeker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Absolutely. Before we move on, just to check in with the chat really quickly. Let's see. The Jedi Ninja says people haven't noticed that the Jedi are their own enemy in the High Republic. They struggle to agree on the best way to deal with that chaotic evil, or sometimes not deal with it. That is true. Even when they're trying to decide whether to act against the Nile, there was like half of the council that was like, we should act, and then the other half was like, we're not a military force, and then you're like, this is the prequels now.
And can we also just appreciate the effect that the Leveler was having on them and bringing up their dark thoughts and their shadow selves and like forcing that to the, we see this like twins of jealousy towards Avar, or like wanting her to fail, or wanting to like, oh, I'm going to rub this in her face. Like, wait, she's my friend. Why would I want that? Yeah. But which is something that, I feel in certain situations too. I loved getting those little pieces of.
Meeg says, I love Starlight Beacon as a symbol of hope for people to know there is a safe place to get help together, etc. And then St. Pat says, I think Starlight Beacon is the only practical of the great works. It is a center of communication, transportation, and economic exchange. The Silk Road for the High Republic. I see where you're coming from there, St. Pat. I do appreciate the communications hub, and like, it's almost it's like international space station basically. So final two questions, and we'll make this really quickly. I'll give you guys like 2 minutes each. And we'll start with Xanthi. What is your favorite piece of lore that you learned in the High Republic that you didn't know about beforehand? And what are your predictions for Phase 2?
Wayseekers, and I don't have predictions for Phase 2. I don't like doing predictions.
Fair enough.
Oh, you know what? Okay, if I could give one, actually, I'll give one prediction. That would be kind of a funny prediction, so it's not a true one. Is how like there was the Death Star, and then there's like another Death Star, and you're like, why would they do the same thing? And then there's like the super whatever that came after that. Like there's just Death Star after Death Star, which is the Empire's like MO. I think the Jedi are probably gonna have another like Starlight Beacon something. I think the Starlight Beacon is like the light side version of the Death Star. Putting all your eggs in one basket makes it vulnerable to attack because it's one damn thing. It's the antithesis of actually spreading out around the galaxy and spreading out powers. It's like putting everything into one thing, just like the Death Star. So I don't know if the Jedi are continuing to repeat mistakes. I'm going to say maybe there's like another one hub type of thing happening.
Like in the past, there was a moonlight beacon.
Yes.
Sunlight Station. It's different. Don't worry about it.
What about you, Camilla?
Lore. I didn't even think about Wayseeker, and I'm glad you brought that up because now I would say Wayseeker. But before, I was going to say, after reading Eye of the Storm, it's Markion Rose people. Yavareni, I believe is how you pronounce their name. Just the lore of them, and I'm so excited for Eye of the Storm too. That's just like that entire lore of them and their people. I think is just really fascinating to me right now. And then predictions for phase 2. I think I don't necessarily have predictions, but I have questions. And one of the biggest questions is I know the question that the High Republic architects were asking in doing phase 1 is what scares the Jedi. And so it's like, yes, it's like, is it actually the Nihil, or is it more so what the Leveler is doing to the Jedi? And then the follow-up question then is, rather than prediction, just like, what is there something in going back 150 years? How do you answer that question again? What scares the Jedi? And I don't know what that is again, but that's the main thing I'm thinking about. What scares the Jedi before these Jedi getting scared?
Choco, what about you?
Shriek hooray, hooray.
No.
The lullaby?
I need some. Okay, sorry. For the lore that we hadn't seen before. I need more Amaxine warriors, please. The Amaxine station leads a lot of stuff that I just. But the lore that we've seen behind it and the way that they are exploring the use of hyperspace in the High Republic is fascinating to me. And I love the lore that we've gotten so far. Definitely more of them, and hopefully it involves Purgle and maybe Loth Wolves. But we'll see. That's a pipe dream. As far as predictions, so we know that we have the blade of Bardada, but the planet he comes from has the Dagian Masters, which we've briefly saw in the Clone Wars. That's the place where Jar Jar Binks was visiting his girlfriend,
Queen Julia.
Yep. Which leads me to this statement: Jar Jar Binks has more game than Anakin Skywalker. Fact. Hey, if Jar Jar Anakin was a beautiful man. So like he had less, there was less of a gap. Like your game is the gap between what you look like.
The bar was below where his looks
I'm
were.
I'm not out here judging Jar Jar's looks.
True. I mean, but still, I'm just saying, Jar Jar's got game, and apparently so does Geode. But I want to see, because there was a rift that happened between that society and the Jedi, and we also had another rift between a society and the Jedi that we learned in Mission to Disaster. I'd like to see those things explored, because it makes you feel like there may have been a darker side either to the Jedi or to the perception of the Jedi, and I think it'd be interesting to jump into.
Yeah. I'm surprised we differed on this answer. So my favorite piece of lore comes from Into the Dark, and
and Mari Santeca. Sorry.
Yeah,
is that
really cool.
your prediction? My favorite piece of lore is learning that the Sith faced the Drengar, and the Sith were the ones that sealed them. Because, as I was reading that book, I was like, well, we're trying to glean what scares the Jedi that aren't the Sith, and then we're getting introduced to the Nihil and the Drengar, and the Drengar were talking about the red lightsabers, and I was like, oh man, like foes that are strictly on the dark side scare the Darksiders, so the Sith have to seal them. I'm just like imagining what happened back then, and I kind of want to go there. But we don't have Sith for another, what is it, 1032, 700 years?
We have dark side users.
We do, but the Sith were, quote unquote, eradicated in 1032 with Bane, so we're not going to see that. The Drengir and the Sith will probably fight each other in the Old Republic, but that's my favorite piece of lore. My prediction is it's the same as Choco's. I mean, I think we're going to get Leveler lore, some background on the Leveler. We're going to probably revisit the Evereni. We are going to see Yoda again. But I think largely going back into the past is probably a necessity with which they have to explain something in the future. And I've talked about this lightly before. I think that the High Republic is going to do the original prequel and then sequel treatment. So Phase 2 is going to be in the past. Phase 3 is going to be the sequel to Phase 1. Okay, so that was a very, very interesting, very, very deep and lovely conversation about High Republic Phase 1. Thank you guys so much for your insights on that. But now we move on to some soft topics that we have for today. You guys are all caught up with Book of Boba Fett, Chapter 4.
Indeed.
Just really quickly, I want to leave it up to you guys specifically because, what stands out to you in Chapter 4 that is worth noting? And just feel free to jump in here because we're kind of like in the open forum section of our show.
Dude had a B2 battle droid hand. That was cool. I just like that. This was my favorite episode so far.
Me too.
I got so happy to see Bunny Droid. Right? Is that what it's called? It's a bunny droid? Is that what the server droid is? The rat catcher droid?
You're talking about the LEP droid? The one that he was chasing around?
Yes.
Or the CEO? Okay, yeah.
We're talking designations now. We're getting in the weeds.
I it was my first celebrity cameo that I ever recognized in Mandalorian or Book of Boba Fett. So I don't recognize a lot of cameos, but Thundercat.
Yeah.
So that was cool. But other than that, I'm obsessed with the Bantha. It's been with the Bantha's big face and lips. The Bantha, love the Bantha. Always love the Bantha. I always love the animals in Star Wars, and feel like they are not treated very well. So did not like the Sarlacc part, but I think the sound design was a significant step up this episode compared to last. And so that is something that, like, I think the music too. I think a lot of the a lot of the subtle, I think a lot of the sound related, narrative aspects of the show were so much better this episode. And it made me really think about the way certain scenes can come off when the sounds aren't right, or when something in the sounds are not really working. And I think this episode has a lot of interesting foils with episode 3 with regard to, sorry, I'm getting in the weeds of music, which probably isn't your question, but I think I was interested in the music and sound of it. Okay. I want to talk about the speeder chase and why that looked slow to a lot of people. And I don't want to get into that too much, but to compare it to the not to the mod parlor scene where there's also similar type of music playing on top of it. I feel like the fast music, and we talked about this on my stream last week, I feel like the fast music of the speeder chase made the speeder chase look slower and boring. I think that was a musical thing. I think if you put Asteroid Field on top of that, I think maybe that scene would be different, would look different. And I think that type of repetitive techno or whatever EDM beat where it's a fast thing, I feel like it worked better in the montage or, the time lapse of, in the mod parlor of working on Fennec, because it was a time lapse. Because when you can play music like that, like it marks, you can skip, the passage of time is not as significant compared to when you're in a chase and you're supposed to feel like you're on the edge of your seat, but when there's music that's kind of lulling you into a groove and whatever, it's hard to feel excited about it, even though it's seemingly exciting music. So that's a little bit off topic, but I think it's something that Episode 4 did right.
If you want to hear more about this topic, tomorrow at 4 p.m. Pacific time on check out Star Wars Music Minute here on YouTube. Yeah, check it out.
But I actually appreciated that. I mean, there is no topic. It is Book of Boba Fett, and I opened up the floor to you guys, and it's actually a really great insight, because as you said that, as I imagined Asteroid Field overtop that chase, I was like instantly so much better. That chase is so much better, and you're right about the pacing of the music and how that goes into the scene, because I never thought of it in that angle. So yeah, I mean,
everything is better with that theme though, so it's not really a fair
it's true
comparison.
It upgrades any action scene. Really though, like when you're in an action scene that's real time, I feel like you can't just have like a track playing. You need to have music that like hits certain points, like so you can really feel when they're like curving or like when they're hitting a thing. Like it has to be it has to be structured differently, like Asteroid Fields.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Any thoughts on any bounty hunters that might come from this war?
Your Honor, leading.
Sustained. Any bounty hunters?
Like who we think are who they're gonna get, the muscle that they're going to recruit at the end, in addition to Din Djarin.
Who do you think they're gonna get, and who do you want them to get?
Quinlan Voss.
I don't want anyone. I don't want anyone else. I just want the Hutts back.
Yeah, but that's a hugely important point of the show, right? Who is large enough to scare the Hutts?
Oh well, they're gonna get Din for sure.
Yeah, do you think Din comes with Bo-Katan and the Mandalorians, or the tribe? Are they still on Tatooine? No, wait. That's the Navarro.
Left for dead on the sands of Tatooine.
I don't really know the timeline of when he's building the crime boss family, or the
tribe
bounty
was
hunter union.
The tribe was on Navarro, right? She wasn't on Tatooine. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just for me to jump in there, I see the Jedi Ninja in the chat, who also streams Apex on YouTube. Check him out; he's a cool dude. Said I want more Bosk, but with Chrysanthemum, I doubt we will. I do hope that we do get Bosk, and I hope because they are caring about canon in all forms, and from a certain point of view, Empire Strikes Back, we actually get this little like story about Bosk coming to. There's someone who's known for freeing Wookiee slaves named Chainbreaker, and there's a whole mission to find, and he's finding Chainbreaker, and it turns out, oh man, I don't even know what I want to spoil it, but the whole conflict between the Wookiees and the Trandoshans is full on explained in this short story, and the whole war is all false. It's all fake. And Bosk is just finding this out just now in Empire Strikes Back time. And I'm really curious if they're going to continue that narrative and he's going to understand why it's fake and all that stuff, and see if we can get them both in together and kind of broach that subject. I know it's a little like,
yeah, since when does logic
highbrow space racism, but yeah, I don't know. That's something I would like to see. But as far as like bounty hunters that we could see in there, I definitely think Bosk is the most likely to show up because there is actually a measure of trust between Bosk and Boba. and all the members of Crate's Claw. So that includes Dengar, and no one knows what happened to Latsratzi, but she can come back. I don't know.
Also, I feel like in terms of I was just say with Bosk, like we've seen so many Trandoshans on screen. They're not going to be from a production standpoint. Why would they have these Trandoshans looking so great and then not bring in King Trandoshan, Bosk himself? You know what I mean?
I was actually going to comment on that. I think the first thing that I think about when I read Jedi Ninja's comment, I want more Bosk, but with Chrysanthemum there, I doubt we will. It's kind of meta in that I think we'll see less of Bosk if Bosk and Chrysanthemum are in the same screen, and because Chrysanthemum will just rip off his arm and we'll see less of Bosk. I'll be here all day.
Math jokes? You got math jokes.
I would like more Chrysanthemum because he's already there. Like, my thing is like, as someone who has not read the Bounty Hunter comics, and I don't want there to be too many things coming from other places. And of course, that's coming from a selfish place, but there's a lot of people in my position.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like I don't keep up with almost everything else except most of the comics. And I want the characters who are already there, like we talked about with Light of the Jedi. I want the characters who are already there to be given more rather than everyone be sort of like a flash in the pan and then wait till the next show. Like, we got Hutts. Show us the Hutts. We got Black Chrysanthemum. We had a really funny scene in chapter 4, which I really liked that scene with Garza Whip and Chrysanthemum and the Trandoshan. I would like to see more of that relationship between Chrysanthemum and Boba develop. I think that would be cool. And I know that he's like in the comics, but I don't think he really talks. I don't think he has like that much of an established deep relationship with Boba yet. So that would be something that they could show on screen.
Yeah, and that's
I
certainly...
want to see more Garza in general. You know,
True.
You know,
and that's
Garza is somebody who I was like, oh yeah, I love. Now I'm just like, I feel like there's something shady about Garza.
Oh,
And I don't know.
absolutely. She's shady.
also, can we get some character development for Fennec?
Thank you.
Yes. I think chapter 4 is the only time that I appreciated chapter 4 because it was the first time I felt like we got any tiny drop of Fennec.
Yeah.
yes.
I've like talked
Tiny
about.
drop.
Yeah, I've talked about this a few times on my on TikTok, and it's just like the reasoning that I've seen from people saying like, oh no, the character development we have makes sense because she's been hardened by the ways of the world. I'm just like, all of your reasoning is supporting the tropes that men often fall into when they're writing female characters. And that's like my main issue with Fennec is that she's very one-dimensional and she just feels like she's there just to service Boba. We don't really have an understanding for her motivation. And she just feels like, and I've said this so many times and I keep saying it, she feels like a strong female character, not a strong female character. And I love her and I want more for her.
There's an episode of the Mandalorian where they do the prison break, right? And we get what's his name? The comedian from Space Boston. What's his name?
Bill Burr?
Bill Burr.
Yeah, Bill Burr. And in that episode, he reveals he has this like shoulder-mounted gun thing that was like super badass, right? I feel like Fennec has the same characterization as that shoulder-mounted gun.
See, the thing is, in chapter 4, when Fennec and Boba are speaking about his like plans for the first time, I kind of feel like we get the small nugget there with Fennec about,
Me too.
you know,
Yeah, absolutely.
how it's always about the mark. It's always about the bounty, and when she decides to forego that for Boba's plans, I feel like she lets in just a little bit inside what's in her mind, and so definitely I think they can do more of that. I think they could be a little bit more implicit with their dialogue moving forward, where she kind of hints at a few things in her past or hints at her life, but not necessarily be explicit about it. And then that way she maintains mystique, but also we're like thinking about like, this is hypothetical. This is not canonical at all. Like she hints that like she lost a brother or something like that, lost family somewhere, and it's very implicit. There's nothing, no details, right? And so we're left wanting.
Yeah.
But I also think, in regards to what Xanthi was talking about, they're going to have to get more people, and that's by necessity. And this is not me like saying that like the characters that are already there need to suffer. But I think the angle with which we're talking about bringing in bounty hunters is just their need for bodies for this war. And so it's like, I would love to see everyone. I would love to see Cad Bane. I would love to see Embo come out of retirement. Like, Embo was just like, oh man, I'm just farming. And then Boba's like, come fight for me. And then Embo's like,
Really?
all right.
A man of your talents?
It's another War of the Bounty Hunters. Yeah, it's like War of the Bounty Hunters Part 2.
And you know, I would appreciate it in whatever capacity that they appeared. There are a few like Cad Bane and maybe Valance that would probably need to have a little bit more airtime rather than like a cameo or showing up. But yeah, I think I largely agree with you that what we have in the show right now, these are the characters that should definitely go forward as like the central focal point for the narrative. So yeah, do we have any other thoughts on Book of Boba Fett before we just really briefly cover this interesting news we got today?
I didn't know that Black Chrysanthemum, never thought that Black Chrysanthemum would ever be in the Book of Boba Fett. And now it's the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. So that's my last thought.
My number one prediction was Cad Bane. Like, Black Chrysanthemum was nowhere near there. And now that he's there, like, even Afra has risen in, like, the possibility, you know?
Please.
If we get a live action 000, though, I will lose it. I will detonate as a human.
Oh my god.
He'll have to replace the current torture droid at Jabba's palace.
I want to see them meet, and I want to see him electrocute that droid.
Xanthi, any other thoughts?
Nope.
Okay, well, this just came out 5 hours ago. We have Ahsoka casting news, and it's being reported by The Hollywood Reporter as an exclusive. And they are reporting that Mary Elizabeth Winstead is joining Rosario Dawson in Ahsoka. And
Who's Mary Elizabeth Winstead?
I believe she was in Birds of Prey, and that's the only one I.
What's that?
It's a DC movie, about Harley Quinn and like. I don't know, Choco, take this.
Okay. DC movie. Okay.
She was Ramona Flowers.
Oh gosh, yes.
And Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Okay, I know that. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I mean, there's no details about this other than that she has been cast to join Rosario Dawson. So right now we have Bordizzo playing Sabine, and Rosario Dawson playing Ahsoka. Who is Winstead playing? Who could we possibly gain from this casting? I don't have any immediate thoughts. Nothing really immediate comes to mind. Of course, it could always be a new character, but we like to play this game, right?
But I am seeing people saying, who knows, she might be able to be to play Hera.
Wait, we also had the other Ivana Sakno, right?
Yeah.
So who would
I don't
you?
know who any of these actors are.
Neither do I.
Okay.
I saw a thread on Twitter saying, would they recast Leia? But my thing is, isn't Mary Elizabeth Winstead like really tall? Not to like focus it on heights, but like one thing about Leia is that she's actually just like very short.
Oh, she's also Ewan McGregor's in real life lady. Okay.
Yeah. I hope that this my thing moving forward is with Star Wars shows coming out. I just look forward to as many white people being aliens and as many people of color being humans as possible. So I don't know. I feel like she could be an alien.
She's an alien.
Yeah, that's my hope, that she is an alien and is a different color. And also, I don't know how I feel about her playing Hera because, I would love for her to be a new character and for that new character to be an alien. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I mean, and this isn't me like dismissing.
I feel like
prosthetics.
Star Wars needs more white brunettes.
Exactly, right? Exactly. That's exactly my thought.
Sorry, go ahead, Element. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I mean, just saying. This isn't me saying like they couldn't use prosthetics, but I don't feel like she has I feel like Ivana Sakno could play Hera better with the pronounced cheekbones and facial structure, but they could always do prosthetics on any of these people. So it's that's like irrelevant at this point. But yeah, I really don't see a Hera in her. I think more than anything, I see like an Imperial Remnant officer more than anything. Who? I mean, no, she couldn't play Barriss. Barriss is ethnic.
Yeah.
Barriss is very, Southeast Asian.
Yeah, that's one of those characters.
Coded, to a problematic degree.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm having trouble
I've
landing
seen-
on something.
I've seen so many fan castings like, let's have Zoe Saldana play Hera, and I'm like, please, for the love of God, Homegirl has been painted a different color way too many times. I would love her in Star Wars.
Be used to green.
She looks good in green.
Like,
but
where would you have
yeah,
gotten that idea?
It's not.
Exactly. I wonder where.
Man.
So I'm not going to be much help in this topic because I purposely avoid Star Wars news, because I just don't like being, I don't like having opinions about it already before I go in. It's like so hard to avoid the noise as it is that I don't,
I
shield myself from as much as possible. I can only have my first reaction once, and I really cherish that.
Oh, so you'd rather not know who she's playing or any characters moving forward?
Yeah, I don't even click on those.
That's fair. Honestly, has it even been confirmed that Natasha Liu is Sabine, or are we still hanging on to like trade rumors?
Nothing has been confirmed.
Right. So at this point,
I like how Connor says they just gender swap Obi-Wan. I love it.
Oh, no.
Marky and Rowe has entered the chat.
I feel like gender swapping is like the middle ground between not really wanting to make a full effort to like make a good female character. It's like we'll be kind of subversive enough to piss people off, but not making such an effort that we have to like rewrite a whole character and like do a whole thing. We can just gender swap and then we'll be like seen as like progressive and stuff. And so, yeah.
It's funny because it's something I learned because of all the shipping culture, and there's a lot of people ship like males together, and the reason is because the males are fully developed characters and the females aren't, and so I feel like they gender swap because That's the only way they can write a fully fledged character.
Yeah.
But that's my 2 cents.
Because it takes me a lot to love a character. Most of my favorite characters are like the men of Star Wars. Like there are very few female characters that I feel like super strongly attached to. And that's because they are not given as much time to be developed. Like they're just not as developed. And I wish I wish that weren't the case.
Yeah.
Give them more time. Like they need to develop the characters that you want your fandom to care about. Don't develop characters that your fandom already cares about.
That's a good point.
Because it's a catch-20. You're never going to exit that cycle, if so.
Could she be an
More
Inquisitor?
There are so many Inquisitors, probably.
Yeah. Or could she be Ventress?
For like flashbacks, stuff like that.
We're not spoiling things here. It's a gag at this point.
Because they're so insider that they've actually seen the whole Ahsoka show already. So
No.
I mean, if that were a thing, I would cast Ivana.
Element 7 wouldn't be able to be here. Elements up, like Pep, you would have to like lock yourself. You wouldn't be able to hold all of that inside of you for like
I'd be
months.
bursting at the seams. I would just be like, she's an Inquisitor. I just know. I mean, like, Ventress is like a thing that, it's like Quinlan Voss. I mean, it's only a coincidence that those two are related, like or like they have a thing. But
They're not related.
I mean, related to
that's
this.
very clear.
I mean, it's a coincidence that they're both related to this subject,
Twins.
where Quinlan Voss, I always say, is going to show up no matter what show it is, and Ventress.
It's your first Wordle guess.
Yeah, and Inventress is always the first person that people think is going to show up when a female is cast, and I'm always only in a flashback. And then one dude was like, "Oh, what happened? Like, did they die?" And I was like, "Yeah, in Dark Disciple." And the guy's like, "You just spoiled it for me." And now he just comes into my chats now, and he's like, "No spoilers, Element." So whenever Ventress comes up, I'm just like, could be Ventress. Who knows? But that's how it goes.
Oh my God, Kedpin. The little worm face. Is that who you're talking about?
Yeah.
Kanto fight?
Kid Pinish your flop.
Kedpin Shucklop, right? Google that.
Yeah.
You'll
I had
see
no
a little
idea that there was
phallic-looking
a-
head, body, entire being.
I had
Which
no
just
idea
looks like a big phallus.
that we have him in live action until somebody said it. I think it was yesterday.
In the
'Cause,
deleted
yeah, I believe it was on Pod Ones. Because I had read the Canto Bite and I was like, oh my gosh, who's this little? There's just like
I
this
love
little guy just trying to do his
The
sales.
Vaporator
He's so
salesman.
cute. Yeah, and then they were like, oh yeah, and then people were like, oh, Kedpin from the deleted scenes, and I was like, excuse me?
Getting a
What?
massage.
I was like, I thought it was just in the book.
All right.
And I
Sales thing
looked
of
up
the
a
year.
picture.
This is
Insane.
officially part of our 9 minutes of open forum. So go ham on Kedpin.
He's kind
And
of
don't
like
say shot club. Don't say whoever
Shucklop?
I'm sorry.
Nussie, is that what it
created
was?
that last night. Who created that?
that was me for one. But
You created an emote?
no, we have we have a friend of the channel, Shaylo Wren, who turns everything into coochie related topics, and you using that theme, we nicknamed him Kedpin Shaklushi. Yeah, it's
a stretch,
it was after the Max Ribbussy thing.
Which
anyways, I felt really
I thought that was a reference to Claude Debussy, the composer, for the longest time. I was like, Max Rebussy, yeah, they're all legit musicians.
That's like fourth.
Debussy. I was like,
That's fourth dimension meta right there. It's like
That's amazing. I would like to formally blame all of this on Shayla Wren. So we love you, Shaylee. Anyhow, no, he strikes. He's kind of like a baby panda. If you've seen them when they're first newborn and they're like really
Wrinkly.
gross looking, that's what he makes me think of.
like an
So
infantile
he's an innocent.
panda.
oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Because cub pandas are the cutest.
cub pandas are cute. When they're newborn, they're kind of alien looking.
I feel like all newborns are alien looking, no matter the species.
True.
Now that's just making me think of any species that isn't alien looking when they're newborn. But that's a rabbit hole.
It's
just
all
for
in the
me.
eye of the beholder, though. So
So
Oh my gosh.
baby Sarlacc.
hey, I mean worms, just worms, right?
When are we gonna see what happened to a little baby Stinky? You know,
I really want that follow up. I love Stinky.
I don't know. Where is he? Is he safe? Is he all right? Who knows?
Brooke says there's a baby Sarlacc in Doc Ondar's, and he is so cute.
Oh,
I've never been.
Sarlacc did nothing wrong.
No, I didn't.
yeah, Starlock's got to eat. You know,
Yeah.
I mean,
He's got it.
There's no need. There's no need to do it. There's no need to hurt it.
if your
I
your
love
mouth
the
is
turnaround
open
for
and someone
Brooke.
falls in,
Exactly.
you're not like, oh,
The Sarlacc did not
food,
hunt
no.
him. The Sarlacc will not chase after him.
Yeah. The Exegorth is more, they will.
But still, that's
yeah,
their.
but
But that's theirs. They need that to live. That's what they eat.
it's
Once
like
every 100 years or whatever.
It's like there's a comedian that talks about like shark attacks, and he's like, "There's no shark attacks. You were in the shark's home. It's not like the
Yeah.
shark was like in your shower or something, you know." And like it makes sense. They're just out doing their thing, and you know,
I mean, they did
I mean-
attack you though.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's like predator prey. Like it's nature. I mean, look,
yeah,
I don't eat animals, but my
I
cat
make-
does. She's carnivore. She's an obligate carnivore. So she's not held to the same standard. She has to eat. She has to hunt for stuff or pretend like she's hunting for stuff.
I'm making no moral quandaries at all about this. I'm just saying it is
know.
objectively an attack. They are attacking you. So
The Meg looks like they were attacking all over the Meg. So I mean, they weren't like in the ocean and then they like came out of the. Has anybody seen the Meg, or should I just stop
the megalodon.
about the Meg?
I couldn't bring
Yeah,
myself
what
to
the
watch
movie
it.
The
I'm
Meg.
sorry.
Yo, it's a great. It's the Meg is if you take Jurassic Park and Deep Blue Sea, and then inject it with steroids. That's what the Meg is, and it is incredible.
Wait, is that?
It's a
Does that have Jason Statham?
Yes, it does.
yes,
Okay,
it does.
Yeah, I think I've seen it, yeah.
Oh, it wasn't great, but I loved every second of it.
It's one of those movies, right?
The Jedi Smart in the chat says, "Where is Borgo? We need Borgo the Hut back." I do want more Hut content though. You know what I mean? Like we don't get to hang out with them or see what they're up to or like what they like. The Huts to me are kind of like Marvel's The Kingpin, where mostly he's a shadowy businessman behind the scenes, but like put him in a fight, he can get things done, you know. And I want to see, I want to explore
You know what?
Huts and Hut culture more.
It was very interesting to see the twins on the palanquin and then like that guy take out that like this is our paperwork, like this is like legit our territory now. And just that small little look into the family, the crime family, which is the Hutts, and that like Godfather-esque type of environment that they're creating. definitely want to see more of that. A lot of people were asking, why do you need permission? And I was trying to rationalize that with like, oh, it's just like a crime family. You know, when someone's a made man, you gotta get permission to move against them. Otherwise, the family's gonna retaliate. And don't know why I said that in like a Guido accent.
I was like, what's happening?
Hey, if a guy's a made man, you gotta get your permission, you know?
But I also, I mean, hopefully we actually get the full story on what actually happened with his tribe of Tuscans.
Mm-hmm.
We had that line in it that alluded to there's no way these bikers could have taken out the whole group. So, well, maybe they did, but like, so there's two possible angles I want this explored. I want to know the truth about what happened if this was actually like an army of the pikes that came down into this, or if Boba is learning about random reprisals, because if you think about it, like, yes, he saw the bikers like shaking down people for water in like the first episode, but the second episode he just busts into a bar, no words, just starts whooping people's ass and steals their bikes, and they're like, what?
Yeah.
You know, so if they were responsible for it, it would have been like a retaliation thing of this random guy showing up and just beating you senseless and stealing your stuff, and just a random reprisal that he would be kind of responsible for. And it's interesting because it's the same concept of a made man, and that's how these like gang wars things start.
Yeah.
He says that in the episode, doesn't he? Say, I'm pretty sure I watched it again today, and I believe he says like, I got the Tuscans killed, and so
Yeah,
then it would
and I
make
liked
sense.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just. I mean, every time they allude to something bigger, I mean, if you watch my reactions on YouTube, I'm always like, "This is Crimson Dawn." I'm going to keep on telling you, and then just like my pre-reaction is Crimson Dawn and Quinlan Voss. My reaction is Crimson Dawn, and then my breakdown is Crimson Dawn, because like the pikes don't scare the Hutts away. And like when Fennec was like, you know, that's highly unlikely that the biker gang took care of the Sand People, and so I'm just like, Crimson Dawn is perpetuating a lot of things. They're pulling the strings. They have agents in the Hutts. They have agents in the Empire. They certainly have agents in the Remnant, and they have agents in the Pikes. They are everywhere. And I just can't wait for that.
$5. It's not Crimson Dawn.
I'll take that bet any day. I'll take it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you're all witness to it.
No, you know what?
I'll go with Choco.
I'm gonna raise you.
I think we may see here in like an after credit scene, but the specific bet is that Crimson Dawn is not responsible for for the Pike's actions. They're not the villains of this. I'm just trying to like specify.
It doesn't matter because it think of like you're an indigenous population and some outsider who does something like you who got slaughtered don't care what syndicate did it or like whatever, but the point is like Boba, him saying that is like not necessarily a factual response, but like that is his emotional truth that he is responsible for their deaths. Like obviously he didn't kill them, but he is that third party who came in and started like kind of tweaking what their responses to things were. So he really is that sort of the key that leads to whatever other happened, you know, whoever else is on the ultimate end, like he is responsible in a way, and he is taking responsibility. Like he knows that he's responsible, even though he didn't do it. He is responsible for opening that door. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. For sure. He was he was the catalyst basically.
Yeah.
He like, even though the Sand People had just like had that reputation and just kind of like protected their lands, he was the one that involved them in so much more
And told them they don't have to hide, that they can fight back.
Yeah. But you said that. What is your exact bet, Choco?
Crimson Dawn is not involved in the deaths of the Tuscans or the rise of these Pikes. I mean, not the rise of these Pikes, but the invasion of these Pikes, this army of Pikes.
I mean,
How do you know when you won, though?
You gotta
Can you-
choose.
Choco, I think you should say if by the end of the season, because what if in 3 years, like something comes out where it's like, actually they were, and then
I'll send him money in 3 years too. I don't care. But no.
there has to be an end to when you know someone who won or
True.
lost.
You have to choose also because it could be Crimson Dawn is pulling the strings of the Pikes, but not responsible for the Sand People. You're like making two positive claims.
Okay. I guess I will go with the Pikes bet.
So the Crimson Dawn are
Crimson-
not behind the Pikes.
Crimson Dawn are not pulling the strings of the Pikes. And they're not responsible for the activities that we are seeing in the Book of Boba Fett, season 1.
I'll take that bet if you call 20.
Oh my
I'll
God,
raise you a
we're
20.
for real.
Yeah, let's do it.
Virtual handshake.
All right. So
Drama.
if the Pikes are not mentioned explicitly, it has to be explicit, right?
Right.
In the Book of Boba Fett, season 1, as being responsible for, or at least being involved in the Tuscan's death, then Choco wins, right?
Well, no, I was more speaking on the Pikes.
Okay.
Just to understand. However, I will say this: if there's a gray area, I would love to have Xanthi and Camilla do a final ruling.
I think you need to determine the edges right now. I mean, so that you'll know when you win.
I'm happy to determine them right now. I just didn't want to force the podcast to go longer because I know we're beyond what we typically do.
I think
I'm just sitting here like eating
I'm such a stickler
popcorn
for
watching
defining the
this.
terms. Thank you, Mara
No.
Skywalker.
I agree. I'm more looking at
Because these
this as
goalposts just
from a
can
timing
keep
thing.
moving when the universe keeps expanding.
so. My edges is that Crimson Dawn is behind everything. Not like the Sand People and all of the small stuff, but they're behind all of the politics that's going on. They scared away the Hutts. They are involved with the Pikes, and that is who Madame Garza is ultimately working for.
Okay, so those are 4 separate points that you would need explicitly mentioned.
Yes.
Wow. What if it's only 3? Like all of them except Garza?
So you're basically telling
This
me
is how people debate the results of Sabacc games.
No, okay. How about this? We will resolve to make a TikTok specifically outlining our bet, as well as we'll make a stupid phrase that the loser has to say or something like that in another TikTok after the season ends.
The thing is, I don't think you'd take a bet if I just said the Crimson Dawn is just umbrella. They're behind. They're the real threat, and I don't think you would take that bet.
Because it's not
It's
specific.
because I don't know what it means.
It's not specific, and there's no way people can interpret that in different ways. You need something specific, like in season 1 of Book of Boba Fett, it will be explicitly mentioned. Crimson Dawn will be explicitly mentioned in the same whatever. Something will be mentioned, and that's
All right.
Or you can be stricter, but that would be a lot.
We'll make this easy. We'll start small. Crimson Dawn is behind the Pikes, and in terms of my predictions, that's who Madame Garza is actually working for. That's not part of the bet, but I believe Madame Garza is working for the Crimson Dawn. So I am betting 20 on Crimson Dawn being involved with the Pikes and telling the Pikes they're behind the Pike Syndicate.
I'll take that bet, and yeah, I'll take that bet.
Cool. I'll watch one of you lose your money.
Yes.
Thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
Okay, well, we are out of time for this episode of Dyad in the Force. I'd like to thank Xanthi and Camilla both for being on the show and providing their great insight, and for making sure we have those well and explicitly defined terms for our bet. Always a great conversation with the both of you. We definitely need to hang out again soon in the future,
Yes.
in person, and that means Choco has a huge drive ahead of him. I'm sorry. That is just
Rude.
hey, when 3/4 of the equation is already here, you know, you're not gonna make
Sure.
3 people drive down. Okay, well,
We could also meet halfway at Disneyland.
oh yeah, that is true. That is true, and we haven't even been there. Star Wars lore masters. We haven't been to Galaxy's Edge yet. And it was funny, Star Wars Dyad, we hadn't even met yet, like, for the longest time.
In person, yeah. It's funny.
Any so we'll start with Xanthi first. Final thoughts, closing thoughts, anything you want to plug, like your Book of Boba Fett series, anything else you want to mention, your socials, if you want to plug them away, you can do so.
Sure. I'll do that. I'm on Star Wars Music Minute on most everywhere except on Twitter, Star Wars Museman. And I'm all about celebrating the music and sound design of Star Wars. I have a podcast called Star Wars Music Minute. On that, we go through the films 5 minutes at a time, really detailed breakdowns of the music and sound. And on the YouTube channel, I'm also doing Book of Boba Fett live streams, breaking down the music after all the episodes. So those are on Sundays. So tomorrow at 4 p.m. Pacific time. And then, yeah, you can follow me also at Chrysanthi Tan if you want more music focused, not necessarily Star Wars content.
Awesome. Follow immediately if you are not following Xanthi. Their content is fantastic, and you only got a taste of that here today. Camilla, same question.
Yes. You can find me, final things, you can find me a couple places again on TikTok, where I talk about Star Wars stuff and all of that stuff. On TikTok, boricuawookiee is my username. Also one half of the Open Circle Fleet on TikTok with my better half / also the Obi-Wan to my Anakin and my Dyad in the Force, which is Beth at mara.j.skywalker. So make sure you're also following Beth because she posts a lot of really incredible legal analyses as well. And then you can also, to plug, listen to season 1 of Beings of the Galaxy now. Wherever pods are cast, Beings of the Galaxy Pod on Instagram, and that is me, and then Elsa and Anna as well. Those are my little Wookiees.
Awesome. And Choco?
Yeah, I'm Darth Choco. Yeah, I am. I do the High Ground podcast, which is a lot of fun. I may or may not have had ulterior motives when I did a positivity checkpoint about the Phantom Menace, because that is the film I am going to be talking about this Wednesday on the High Ground podcast. Awesome group of guests as usual. We got Ari in space. I have Obi-Wan. You may know him from his Lego content, as well as Nada Kyber, who is the other half of the Sith-Faced podcast. So it's going to be fun. Going to have an awesome discussion, dive into the Phantom Menace. Other than that, follow my YouTube channel. I'm making a lot more YouTube content. I'm doing breakdowns of the Book of Boba Fett, but also I'm going to be doing a lot more just stuff of interest. So if you want the actual details of, I don't know, how Boba Fett escaped the Sarlacc both times in Legends, or the actual feud between the Wookiees and the Trandoshans, those are 2 videos that are going up soon.
Awesome.
Nice.
Awesome. And if you guys need help following any of these wonderful people, their links, their social links, at least to their TikToks, is in the description, and Choco's link to his YouTube as well is also in the description. I do believe it is youtube.com/justlostabet. So, with that said, thank you, Camilla. Thank you, Xanthi, for being here and having a wonderful conversation with us. But that is the end. On to the next one.
For light and for life.
We are all the Republic.
And may the force be with you.
Do or do not. There is no try. Do or do not.